It was early in the morning on a Friday. Gray turned over and opens his eyes sleepily. He rubs them and sits up. He turns over and slams his hand into his alarm and sighs deeply. He gets up and starts getting ready for school. He goes into his closet, picks out a basic white tee and some blue jeans. He walks into the bathroom to change. As he is doing that, he brushes his teeth and hair. He looks at himself in the mirror and fixes his brown hair to look decent for another year of school. He walks out of his bathroom. He grabs his school bag from the door. He checks it, making sure everything is still inside. He nods, knowing everything he put inside last night is still in there. He grabs and puts his coat on. As he slings his bag around his shoulder, he takes a deep breath and walks out of his room to the front door. He hesitates, thinking about eating some breakfast. Then he shakes his head, thinking he is going to be late if he does. So he just walks out the door to his school. He gets to school, all he can hear is people talking and chatting about day-to-day things. He sighs as he puts in his earbuds. He walks to the glass door and pushes through it with his hand. He is hit with the musky and sweat smell. He now knows this is where it begins. He listens to his music as he walks through the halls. He looks down at his paper, looking for his first class for the day. He was too busy looking at his paper. He didn't realize he just ran into someone. He falls backwards and groans as he rubs his head. He reaches over and grabs his notebooks, books, and his class paper. In the corner of his eye, he sees a hand reaching out at him. He looks up and was met with a familiar set of beautiful blue eyes and a friendly smile. He smiles and lets her help me up. He takes out his earbuds and puts them into the case. Gray, are you okay? I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention, Cherry. The girl known as Cherry speaks up. Oh, it's okay, I know how you get when you are listening to music, she said happily. You know, why do you call yourself Cherry Puff? He asked. Her happily demeanor flickered. Huh? It's a nickname, trust me. My parents wouldn't be crazy enough to call me. She giggles nervously. He noticed her nervous giggle, but he decides to let it slip. Well, want to go to class together? Cherry perks up. Really? I would love to. Here, come on. She grabs your hand and quickly leads you to the class. What class? She happily asked. Health class? She smiles wider. Goody. I have health too, she says happily, looking back at you. She leads you down the hall quickly, passing through the other kids. After a few minutes, you make it to health class. She walks him in and they sit down at their desks. He sorts his papers and writes down what the teacher is saying. He feels someone looking at him. He looks over and sees Cherry staring at him with her big blue eyes. He whispers, "Can you please quit staring at me? It's making me uncomfortable." She tilts her head, confused. Really? I just like looking at you, but if you insist. She gets one more glance and turns away. He exhales. After the class, he grabs his stuff and puts it inside of bag one by one. He feels someone touch his shoulder and he flinches. He looks back and sees her. He sighs in relief. You know, you need to quit sneaking up on me. Cherry giggles. I'm sorry, I was just wanting to get your attention. Well, you have it, what do you want? He says, kinda annoyed. She smiles. Nothing. She giggles and grabs her bag and walks out of the room. He rolls her eyes and follows her with his own bag on his shoulder. Hey, wait up, he shouts. Cherry perks up and looks behind her. He pants softly. What did you want earlier? Cherry looks over her shoulder and stares for a few seconds. I just wanted to ask you if you wanted to hang out later. Yeah, I do. After school, he said with a nod. She smiles happily and starts skipping to her next class. He just walked to his class. He sits down and gets ready for the class. Cherry is in her class, and she can't stop thinking about him no matter what, just waiting to hang out after school. She breathes a tiny bit heavy, waiting for the class to be done. Finally, the bell rings and she quickly gets up as fast as possible. She grabs her stuff and runs out of her class to his. She stands right in front of the door. He goes to walk out of the class and jumps back a bit. Whoa, don't scare me like that. Why are you standing right in the doorway? He felt his heart still pounding from the scare. Because I missed you. You need to calm down. I don't like you creeping on me all the time. Cherry eyes widen and she stares at you, threatening. Excuse me. You can't blame me for wanting to be around you, she says in a low voice. He is caught off guard by her threatening stare and voice. I get that, but you're like, obsessed. he says nervously. She stares. I get that, but I can't help my feeling for you. She walks off and he sighs. After a long few hours school finally gets done and he walks out of the school with a sigh. He walks to his house and bumps into Cherry as he gets to the stairs leading to his front door. Ugh. Huh? Wait, what? What are you doing here already? Cherry smiles. I'm sorry for earlier, but I'm just so excited to hang out with you. Okay, just in a bit I have to shower and eat dinner. Ugh. Just hang out with me, she says a bit angrily. Okay, fine. I don't think my parents will be happy me bringing you over when they are so busy. He smiles through his lie. His parents really don't like her. They think she weird. So why don't we go to your house? Cherry giggles. Great. You never went to my house. Cherry squeals and grabs his hand as she leads you to her house. He looks around as she leads him and sees a very small and rundown house. The yard is full of trash and weeds. The paint is peeling, and the windows are cracked. Is this your house? He said, looking at the house kinda nervous. Yup. She smiles and knocks on the door. Let me in. He watches her door on her front door and he sees her getting more and more annoyed. Let me in. Come on, Dad. She bangs at the door and she growls in angry. She steps back and rams in shoulder in the door, breaking the old hinges. His eyes widen and shocked that she just did that. The door swings open and he smells an old, musky smell, but also like sweets. She walks in angrily and she looks back at you. She calms down and sighs. Sorry about that, I just hate it when he locks the door. She looks back at you and walk upstairs to her room. He slowly walks in and scrunches his nose at the smell. He looks over and sees her stepdad near the door, fully able to unlock it for her, but he didn't. Hi, I'm Gray, Cherry's friend. Her stepdad eyes widen. You're her friend? Her stepdad said, worried and cautiously. Why, yeah. Is that a problem? Yes. Yes, it is. Her stepdad grabs his shoulders. You need to get away from her. She is going to kill you if things don't go her way. Kill? Gray said, terrified. Yes, she becomes obsessed with people, and she will do everything in her power to make them hers. I don't believe that. Gray said, not wanting to believe it. She hates my guys because she murdered her mom, and dad because she didn't get her way, and luckily her mom was dating me when she was with her father, so Cherry went to me. Take that what you will. Her stepdad walks into his room and hands him 3 pieces of paper and walks off. Gray reads the 3 papers and it was a criminal record. One was from 2014, another was from 2018, and the last was from 2022. The first one was about her parents' murder and it was noted it was self-defense, but something in his gut didn't believe that, and the other was about a murder of 5 teenage boys. The last one was about assault charge against 2 people. He felt the urge to vomit, but he noticed the name changed. The criminal paper where she murdered her parents, her name was Charlotte Lewis, but in the one with the teenage boys it was also Charlotte, but the last one the name was Cherry Puff. He was shocked, now knew she most likely changed her name to get away from her crime. He felt like his whole friendship was a lie. He tries to calm his breathing as he hears Bed walking down the stairs. He quickly and nervously puts the papers in his bag as looks at her. Hi, she said happily. Want to make cherry puffs? Sure. Goody. She smiles and grabs the ingredients. You can make the dough, I want to make the frosting. He nods nervously, worriedly that she will catch on. He starts making and rolling the dough, and puts them into small balls and puts them in the oven. Cherry cuts up some cherries and puts them into the frosting. She grabs a small bottle of red liquid and pours some into the frosting. She takes some on her finger and tastes it. That's yummy. He is so confused on what the red liquid is. He has her cherry puffs, but he never saw her put red liquid into it. She hears a ding and pulls out the cherry puffs and pours the frosting on them. She takes a big bite and she looks at you. He hesitates, but he remembered what her stepdad said and took a bite and nodding, smiling at her. She smiles and puts away the cherry puffs. She goes back into her room to grab something, takes this opportunity, and runs out of the house to his house, not wanting to get murdered by her. He gets to his house, slams and locks the door. He sighs and pants. His parents are done with dinner and call him to the table. He sits down and eats. The silence was awkward after he was done eating. He walked to his room and laid down. Ugh. I need to get some rest. He slowly closes his eyes and wakes up in the morning. He gets up for school, and as he walks to the school, everyone around him are screaming and yelling. He sees them running away. His eyes widen and he runs into the school. Covered in blood with a manic look on her face, her head shoots to you. He stops in his tracks as he sees Cherry. Her voice was low and threatening. Why? Why did you leave me? How could you? I don't like it when people leave me, you know. He looks around her and sees his dead friends. I'm sorry, okay, but this is getting out of hand. You think you can murder people just because I left your house last night? She walks closer to him, blood knife in hand. It wasn't just that, you know. You left me and no one leaves me alive. She lunges at you with the knife and the knife hits the locker. She puts her leg on the locker trying to pull the knife out and he punched her. Stop it. This isn't right, you can't hurt people. She falls backwards as she pulls the knife out and kicks his legs and he falls down. She raises her hand with the knife and she screams in anger and stabs it into him. Then everything goes silent and you hear pained breathing as she realizes that he stabbed her with his pocket knife and she falls to the ground. He looks at her holding his stab wound and looking at her as she died.